Like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself. Hey, this is Lewis Howard. Welcome to another edition of Lewis Howard Live, inspirational recipes for your soul. As always, this show is really a reminder of the things you probably already know, and we just give you some reminders so you can refresh, reset your mind, and help kind of get you back on the path. If you're off the path, or if you're just starting out on a path, hey, we want to give you some good ingredients that you can put in to your journey and life. I'd like to welcome all of our listeners. We got some new listeners tuning in from Japan, and maybe my friend Reflection is watching. What's up, Reflection? All the way in Japan. And we have Australia, we have the Philippines, we have Canada, and the UK. That's also part of the conversation. And to all of our Apple Stream listeners, thank you for being part of the conversation. You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to say, you better change your ways or you shortening your days, right? I never really understood what that meant, but it sounded threatening and intimidating. So I grew up thinking about, man, if I get in a bad situation, I got to change. And it's a big conversation in our culture today, right? Change. Right? Everywhere in the cosmos, people talk about change. When somebody wants to sell you something, they talk about change, changing your life, changing the way that you are, changing from one status to another. So today I thought it'd be interesting to talk about change, but also talk about transformation, which is part two to change. Most people get the change, right? One of my favorite songs used to be is Man in the Mirror. Maybe some of you old school listeners know about that song by Michael Jackson. And he said, I'm going to start with the man in the mirror. I'm going to make a change for once in my life. So our culture is familiar with change. We embrace change, and we know that if you want to be different in life, it requires change. But I think a lot of people get stuck. I think once you make the change and things don't work out, or you maybe have a setback, where do you go from there? And why do we start things that we don't finish? Because there's a part two to change called transformation. We're going to talk about both of those today, and I'm hoping you get a thought out of that will help you wherever you are, whether you're in a relationship, marriage, business, partnership, whatever you're doing, raising children, anything, that you've got to be the steward, manager, leader about change. So let's take a look at what change is, right? Because I always like to define things, right? So change defined is to make someone or something different, to modify. So an example would be in 2020, the world changed. Would you agree? It went from one state of being to another state of being just like that. We didn't get a 30-day notice. You know, sometimes when you're going to get a change in your lease payment or mortgage payment, they'll give you a 30-day notice that your rate or payment is going to change. But in this particular case, we didn't get a notification. We went from one state of living to wearing masks, to staying at home, to losing relatives, friends, and doing, dare I say, body counts every day around the world. That was a drastic change for most people. So you modify something and you change something. And we all had to behave differently. Whether we understood the change or wanted the change or not, we had to act differently. Trying to deny that there was a pandemic did not affect that change. It still happened. It still went on. And so we had some people believed in conspiracy theories, that it was the government. There was this, group trying to force America and the world into a certain way of think. But the reality was we had something that hit America and hit the world we had never experienced before. It caused us to have to change. So there's another definition of change. It says to replace something with something, especially something of the same, like, and kind with newer or better to substitute. So an example of that is I log on to my password and it says, you now are required to change your old password to a new password. If you don't change your old password to a new password, you won't be able to access your device anymore. So we struggle to come up with some new version of the password so that we can change our access. So you can kind of see how different things require change. You change jobs, you change relationships, change partners, change spouses. I changed the station. I changed music, which is something just happens just like that. Okay, so that is one kind of change. So a lot of times when people go into a health program, a business program, it is a change. And they think, well, that's all I needed to do was I needed to change the people that I was hanging around with. When I grew up, I understood at some point in my life that for my life to be better, I had to change the kind of people that I was hanging out with. That was a change. But what I really have come to know that there was another part to it called transformation. So change would appear to be something that can be sudden. It can be without notice. It can be without warning. And it can be without your agreement. You don't have to agree for change to take place. Another example, if the power company wants to change your lights from on or off because you didn't pay the bill, you don't have to agree with that. You don't have to say, I refuse to have my power cut off because I didn't change my bill. No, they're going to cut it off anyway. You'll be sitting in the dark wondering what happened. So there are kind of forced changes. There are volunteer changes. There are involuntary changes that we sort of deal with. And yet change is a part of growth. Change is a part of transition. And as we will learn, change is part of your transformation. So it's important to get that first piece, because if you don't get the first piece to change and realize, hey, I need to change my diet. I need to change my exercise. I may need to change my job. I need to change my health. I need to change my situation. So that is the realization that you need to do something different. You need to modify. You need to make it into something different. And so that becomes change. And so you think that you're done, but you really are just beginning when you change. So when you change jobs, that's just the beginning. There are steps 2 and 3 to actually becoming successful in the change that you want to see. So we're going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to talk about this thing called transformation, because I think that's really the piece that you really need to have in your life, in your plan, in your whiteboard to really get you from where you are to where you want to be. I wrote a book called From Here to There, and it was about change, transition, and transformation. So you're listening to Lewis Howard Live. Stay with us. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk to you about how to make lasting change through transformation.
The Millionaire Club charity is one of Seattle's oldest existing charities. In addition to job placement and employment services, the Millionaire Club provides job training and licensing to help workers become qualified and job ready, from nutritious meals and sack lunches to housing assistance to stabilize their lives. Despite its name, the donors to the Millionaire Club are ordinary citizens with a desire and passion to help fellow citizens overcome the barriers of employment and housing. For more information, call 206-728-JOBS. or go to millionaireclub.org.
Hey, this is Lewis Howard. Thank you for joining us. If you just clicked on us, joined on us, found us on your device, we're talking about inspirational recipes for the soul, and change and transformation is a key ingredient that you need in any kind of recipe if you're going to have any kind of positive outcome or success in your endeavors. So I started off in the first segment really just kind of defining what change is. You can look it up. You can get more of a deeper dive into it. But really to understand the power of needing to make a change in your life. Some people wait too late to make change. You need to make change early, and you need to make it often. You know, 30 years of being in business and leading people, I'm always looking for the next place that I need to change, that I need to get ahead of the curve. So let's talk about this thing called transformation, because it's not something that's really talked a lot about in our culture. It's advertised. You can hear it if you go to church. You can hear it in business. You can hear it in the marketplace. You can hear it on the radio, YouTube. You can hear the word transformation in a lot of places. But really, what does it mean? What does it mean? How do I apply it to my everyday life, this thing called transformation? Do I have to go sleep down in Sedona, Arizona under the tents, right? Or do I have to wear crystals? Do I need to know what my astrology sign says every day in order to be transformed? Or is there something else that I need to have in my life that's going to affect my transition? So one of my movies that I like, I'm a movie guy. So one of my favorite movies is a movie called Transformers, featuring Megan Fox. Gotta like Megan Fox. She's hot in that movie. And Shia LaBeouf, both actors in the movie about Transformers. So Transformer was a movie about these Autobots. And these Autobots who came to Earth to protect Earth, but also to protect their planet and where they had come from. And these alien Autobots that was coming. So it was this whole scene and scripting. But one of the amazing things about the Transformers was they would transform. So they would come up in the form of a truck or a car or ice cream truck, and they would transform into these Autobots, right? So it wasn't like, boom, they're an Autobot. No, there was a process that they went through to become from a vehicle into this powerful Autobot that could protect and defend America against these aliens and foreign Autobots that were coming to try to take over the world. So they transformed. That's the name of the movie, The Transformers. So in life, transforming is like this thorough, dramatic change in appearance. That's what the Transformers did. They changed their appearance. So if you're changing in life, you're transforming. The caterpillar transforms into what? A butterfly. There's a process that goes through it. So there are some similar words we use: a change, alteration, modification, variation, amendment, metamorphosis. That's a word that I like to use. Transfiguration, evolution, reconstruction, different words that all mean the same thing, that there is a transformation during the cycle of life or a situation. So while change is sudden, transformation is not. And this is where most people fall off the wagon, because transformation can take time. Transformation is not instant, and transformation is not quick. And it depends on where you start. So, for example, if you're trying to lose 30 pounds, you're not going to lose that in a day. You're not going to change your weight and health in a day. It's going to take a period of transformation through workout, to exercise, and whatever things that you need. If you want to change your career and you want to become a singer or a performing artist or an entrepreneur, you're not going to do that in a day. Now, you can go out in a day and put up a website, and you can put up your social media, and you can get your business card that says, I'm CEO, president, managing partner of XYZ Corporation, and now I've changed. But you haven't transformed into anything, because the business has no track record. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't produced anything. It's going to take some time in order to make that transformation. This is why most of people quit. We are great finishers in life, starters in life, but we are horrible finishers. People start out strong because they make the change. But then comes the transformation, which takes time, right? You don't see the pounds come off quickly, and a tendency is to get discouraged or disappointed, or you stop working out. Most people in direct marketing who sell you all of the Pelotons and all the equipment, they say that 80% of the equipment is not used after 90 days. It sits in a garage. Most diets and health programs don't last more than 30 days. Most resolutions that people make at the beginning of the year and set your goals usually are done by February. Why? Because it didn't happen quickly. It didn't happen overnight, and you didn't see the results. And so you decided, well, I'm not going to make this change, or I'm not going to stay with the program, right? Same thing in relationships. You change. I went to the altar, I got married, and now I have changed my status, but I got to transform into a married person. You cannot be a married person acting like you're single, hanging out with your single friends. You're no longer single. You are now married, and now you got to transform into being a husband, a wife, or a partner. And that takes a period of time. That is not instant. But if you want to see lasting success, you have to embrace transformation. You can't skip over it. You cannot go to change and get the fruit that you want to. Now, sometimes people lie, and sometimes they misrepresent the facts. So you'll see somebody that says, hey, I lost 10 pounds in 5 weeks, or 30 days, or 2 days. Well, the deal is you don't know what they did, okay? You don't know what corners that they cut in order to do that. They may have had surgery as far as you know, right? The person said, I made $1 million. You know, you see these YouTube, I'm getting $100,000 check every month. Look, you can do that too. But what they don't tell you is how long did it take for them to get these checks? How many times did they fail in the business endeavor that they were in, okay? Who's fronting that money? Who's their partner? How are they doing it? Maybe they're getting these checks because they happen to land on a right platform, not because of themselves or what they've done. So that's what I mean about misrepresenting or misleading, because if you don't know what we say in Hollywood, if you don't know the backstory, then you don't know the front story. Right? So you really cannot compare yourself when you're trying to make a transformation in your life. You can't compare yourself to other people because everybody's different. Our DNA structure is different. Some people learn really quick and they can do things overnight. I remember taking my real estate license many years ago, and it was about 30 of us in the class, right? And so we had about an hour to take the course and then get out. I remember 10 minutes in, people started leaving. They had finished, they had stop or whatever. And so I felt under pressure because I was one of the last ones to leave the room, because I'm like answering the questions slowly and methodically, and people are leaving and I'm getting intimidated, and I almost quit. I almost was not a real estate agent because I almost did what those people did and left. What I found out is a lot of them gave up and they quit. They decide they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to go through the process. And so it's hard to compare yourself when you're looking at other people. You're looking at somebody else's look, somebody else's lifestyle. You're looking at somebody else's car, somebody else's flash, somebody else's swag. Well, you don't know what they did to get that. So the key thing is, what do you have to do for your own life to have a good marriage, a good family, a good business, a good life? If you're in school, to get the grades that you need. You may have to study longer than the next person. You may have to get some tutoring and some help versus the other person. But look, it doesn't matter as long as you get to the finish line. Sometimes when I'm watching sports, you have teams that are quick starters, right? They'll get out quickly and they'll just dominate the other team. Then you have teams that look like they're going to lose the game because they're constantly behind, or they're missing plays, or they're not making the throws, and it just looks like that they're going to lose the game. But late in the fourth quarter, they flip a switch and all of a sudden they turn around and they dominate. You know, there's a term that I learned, that the race is not to the swift, but to him or her who endures to the end of the process. So that really is what transformation is. It's enduring to the end of the process. It is a process of staying in the transformation until you go from the caterpillar to the butterfly, not stopping in between, to where you go from where you are to where you want to be, and you don't quit. You've got to embrace the change. All right. So to wrap up, let's talk about, some things that I think you need to do in order to have transformation. And one of the things that I always coach people on is this thing called crawl, walk, run. What do I mean by that? Well, that's 3 phases of change and transformation. When a baby is born, and after a while, it learns to crawl. It's not running, it's just crawling. And that's what it does for a period of time. He or she is crawling around the floor, crawling up the stairs, crawling over everything. They're crawling. They're not walking. We can't wait for them to walk, but they're crawling. They're in this stage. And then after a while, maybe about 14 months, 16 months, depending on where your kid is, they start to take their first steps. Now they're starting to learn to walk. Man, what a change. What a transformation. But remember, they started out as a baby that you were holding. Then they went to crawling. Then they went to walking. And hey, by 9, 10, they're running. In fact, by the time they turn 3 or 4, they're running everywhere. You're chasing them all over the house, the parking lot, the parks, because they are now running. That is the 3 phases. You can't skip crawl and go to run. You've got to go through those transformations. So you start a new business. Okay, it's brand new. Most businesses fail in the first 2 or 3 years. So it's a transformation process that you have to take your business through. Even if you've done it 100 years, you still have to go through that process to learn. People start social media accounts and they want to have 1 million followers overnight. Well, that's a process. And sometimes what I find is people that have 1 million followers overnight, they bought them. They went to a company and they said, I'm buying 1 million followers. How much? And now all of a sudden they got 1 million followers and you're feeling, left out, cheeseball, because you don't have 1 million followers like they do, but they actually went and bought the followers. They didn't actually go through the entire process. It's important to go through the process because of what it makes you become doing the process. When you're in the gym and you're working out, that process of lifting weights and transforming your body is teaching you how to be strong and stronger. I got a personal coach and, he teaches me how to get my core body strength. And when I went in there, I could barely, have good stability. Now, 6 months later, got great stability. How did that happen? Because I stayed with the program. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I didn't put the thing in the garage. I didn't put it on the shelf. I didn't say, well, I could be home watching Yellowstone instead of doing this, right? But instead, I stayed with the program. So if you just joined us, we're talking about the power of change and transformation to equal growth. So number 1, you've got to go through the crawl, walk, run phase. Number 2 is you got to be patient. As I said, it's likely not to happen overnight. There are no overnight successes. I heard celebrities say, I've been an overnight success 20 years in the making. What did they mean? Well, for 20 years, they've been working on getting famous, working on their craft, working on where they could get to the point where they could have the fame and the followers and so forth. It didn't happen overnight. So to all my young peeps out there, be patient. You'll get there. You will get there. It takes time, it takes growth, and you're going to make a few mistakes in the process, but you stay with it. And as I said earlier, don't compare, right? The quickest way to failure is when you start comparing yourself to somebody else and how they did it, and why is it that I can't do it? Why can't I find the person of my dream? Why can't I drive a Phantom? Why can't I have a private jet? Why can't I have a 10,000 square foot house? It takes time. Why can't my business be successful, right? It's not that your business may not be successful, but it's going to take time and you have to stay with it. And you can't transform, keep changing things, right? So I know people that do this, right? So they keep moving cities. I'm moving to California. I'm moving to New York. I'm moving to Vegas, because they think by moving these locations that somehow that's going to give them the magic pill to become transformed into what they want to be. Here's the deal. Everywhere you go, there you are. So everywhere you go, you're going to have to start over and make the new transformation over and over again. So when you keep changing, you actually lose momentum. If you start on a program, a health program, and you quit, now you've lost momentum because you just gave back everything you worked for. Now you got to go start over. And then sometimes people get mad at organizations, right? They'll get mad at their employer. They'll get mad at their company, their parents, people around them, and they'll blame them for the reason why they can't change. It's not them. It's that you have to make the commitment, and it doesn't matter if people agree with you, support you, or with you. You stay committed to making the transformation. The other thing is number 3 is you got to make mid-course corrections. What do I mean by this? So sometimes if you're starting out something, you might have to change courses. If I'm making a certain meal and I'm using certain ingredients, and it doesn't look like this is going to turn out the way the recipe on the box said, I got to make some adjustments. I may have to add some things. I may have to take some things away to make it come out. So don't think that the way you started out is necessarily the way you're going to finish, right? We see this with sports athletes a lot, where they'll start out with one team and they did really badly with that team, and we think, oh, this person was a dud. But then what they did was they changed course. They got a new coach, or maybe they got a new team, and all of a sudden, man, they're a superstar, right? We saw that with several big players over the years in the NFL, where they just had to make a change in their team, but they had to stay with their transformation. Get a mentor. Right? Sometimes you cannot make the transformation on your own. You need help. We all need help. You know, for years, I used to tell people, I don't need a coach. I can do this on my own. I was just lying to myself. I need a coach. So I have coaches. I have mentors. I got people that help me in various parts of my life that helps me where I need to be. So I got a health coach. I got a mental coach. I got spiritual coaches. I got financial coaches. I got different coaches that help me in the areas that I need to make the transformation in. So get a friend, right? Let them know. Be honest with them. Hey, I'm trying to lose weight. Will you come work out with me? I'm trying to, start this new business. Would you help me out? Raise your hand, as we said, and find somebody that'll help you get on the train to transformation. All right, a couple more. Don't be afraid to fail. There's a term that we have within Keller Williams, one of our partner companies, that says, fail forward. In our culture, we are afraid to fail. We are afraid to be seen as failure. So we'll misrepresent. We'll say we're not failing when we're clearly failing. But failure is a part of success. When you read the story of most billionaires, you will find that they failed in business a half a dozen times. They did not just come out and become a billionaire overnight. They started businesses, many of them you never heard about because they never got off the ground, and they fail. So failure is a part of success. So it doesn't matter if you're in transformation and you have a failure, or you went and they opened up Krispy Kreme donuts across the street and you end up finding yourself there and you had to start over. That's okay, because it's a process. And sometimes in that process, you have to keep resetting. You got to keep changing, even within the transition of the process. And then lastly, start over as many times as you need in order to succeed, okay? Don't be afraid to start over. Some people, they quit and then that's the end. There are so many ideas that are just in the ditch. There's so many great paintings that never got finished. So many businesses that just never got done because the person tried it, they failed, and they didn't want to start over. They didn't want to be embarrassed or shamed, and they quit. You need to start over as many times. I can't tell you how many times I've started over in real estate and in business and relationships, and I'm still starting over, right? And many would count me as a success with everything that I have and I've done, but I'm still starting over in different places. So transformation takes time. Change can be quickly, and it's not easy. So I want to encourage you to just kind of spend some time thinking about some areas in your life where you want to change and where you're willing to make the commitment. And that is the other word that I didn't mention, but you got to have a commitment to the transformation and to the process. So there you go. Take a thought. Hope you got one thing out of it. And remember, you will be able to hear us on YouTube. You can catch us on LinkedIn, Facebook. We now back on our audio platforms on Blog Talk Radio. And don't forget, I still have my books out, Living Up in a Down World, Staying Steady in Unsteady Times, and our bestseller, Inside the Mind of Champions, and From Here to There, that are all available on Amazon Books. This is Lewis Howard. I love to inspire people. I'll see you again on another edition of Lewis Howard, Inspirational Recipes for the Soul. Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself.